countdown.
I like it.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Housekeepers Podcast. I could not be more excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. And can't believe I'm actually doing the Housekeepers Podcast. Again, Corey, you don't know this, but I started this podcast in 2006, 2007. A long time ago.
Back then?
Yeah, it was really new. There wasn't a lot out there. And I started it because I was trying to figure out a way to, I'll tell you the brief story, the brief history behind the Housekeepers Podcast. I was working for a management company in housekeeping and laundry. And I got promoted to where I had to train new managers. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to train a new manager. The advice I got from people above me were like, just get them to work like you work. I'm like, what the heck does that mean? Right? Like, that's the worst. You might as well have told me to speak German to them because I could have been just as successful. So I started trying to figure out where to get information, like share books, share videos. YouTube was around. It wasn't all that popular, but it was around. And so I went on YouTube and I found a video called A Fireside Chat with an Executive. And it was a woman in a business suit sitting in front of a fire and quite literally talking about like employee engagement and getting people, the right packages and getting them in the right jobs. And I'm thinking to myself, I work in housekeeping in a 160 bed nursing home in a city. I'm dealing with theft, fist fights, arguments, drug use. I knew nothing about drug use until I started working in housekeeping in nursing homes. This is where I learned how to tell if somebody's on a different kind of a drug. If they're scratching, if their eyes are dilated, if they're constantly, they're very sleepy. I was completely oblivious to this stuff. So I see this video, Fireside Chat with an Executive, and I'm like, there's no chance. These people I'm trying to create, making the managers, they would laugh me out of town. I mean, there's no way they want to see that stuff. And so I started having my friend and I started to have weekly calls. Every week we would just have like a conference call, no video, just a conference call with people who were trying to get into management and just talking about regular things we were seeing on a daily basis. Call outs, theft, accusations, eye rolls, attitudes. I don't want to work with her. I'm not working on her, that kind of stuff.
Oh, yes.
And eventually I heard of this thing called the podcast. And I said to my friend Adam, I go, we got to start recording these as a podcast. And he says, what's a podcast?
And here we are.
And the Housekeepers Podcast was born, and we did it for 6 years, and I loved it. I got to tell you that I'm super excited to have you on as my first official guest back on the show because of the small interactions that we've had together. I find you very engaging and smart and hardworking, and you're a housekeeping manager. I mean, does it get any better than that? I don't think so.
Appreciate it. Gets no better than this. So. Absolutely.
So I don't know a lot about you, and I'd love to know that, where did you come from? Did you grow up here in New York? I mean, we're both in New York City right now, just outside it. Yeah. Is this where you grew up?
No, yeah, I grew up in Hollis, Queens, New York, and I just I was working for mailrooms a lot in the companies in Manhattan. I worked for Joseph E. Seagram & Son. And my uncle, who was director of housekeeping at a place called Terrence Cardinal Cook, he came to me and me and my brother, I actually have a twin brother that does the same thing. That's amazing, right? Yes. You'll meet him one day.
I love
it. So he came to both of us and he said, I see the talent you guys have. Would you like to be in housekeeping management? Of course, we jumped on it.
How old were you?
I was 24 years old.
So what does that make your twin brother? Probably around 24?
Yeah, he's like 24 and 2 minutes older. We actually both have a birthday coming up. Nice. It was, and he saw it in us that this could be a business that we could flourish in. And we were housekeeping supervisors at Westchester Medical Center for Crawford.
Wow, very cool.
Yes. And Crawford was a good foundation because they send their managers away for training. You get a week of management training. You get a week of hands-on housekeeper training. So we were in the L&D department, cleaning up after the childbirth. We were stripping and waxing. We were in the oncology. Like, we really got the real world experience. And through that, I worked at different facilities. They would send me to different facilities to help to fill in. So I was able to absorb different systems and different things they were doing. And I eventually worked at Bronx Lebanon Special Care Center as a director of housekeeping. And I did not ever want to leave the nursing home field after that.
Unbelievable. Let me ask you, because I too had that same transition where I worked in hospitals and then I started working in long-term care. And I agree. There's a big lure, there's a big draw.
Yeah.
You know what it is? It's hospitals. It's very turnover, right? The only people you develop a relationship with are other coworkers.
Yes.
And even that's a big turnover. But in nursing homes, it's such a home environment.
Yes.
You can develop real good relationships with your customer base. You see them day after day. I think that's the big draw for me. Was that the same for you?
That was the exact same for me, because I've always had an affinity for the elderly. I would always be one to sit down with one of the old folks, and they tell me stories about when they were younger, how the United States was back in the 50s and the 60s. And it always intrigued me. And I would sit down and talk with my grandmother and grandfather about things. So that always drew me to the nursing home experience. And just it was a lot calmer of an environment, because the hospital is go, 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 and this nursing home environment allowed me to think and to plan and to strategize and have reflection at the end of the day. And that just was always intrigued me and helped me to keep it rocking and rolling.
I like that a lot. I worked at a hospital, and just to speak to the chaos piece, because it's so key. I worked in a hospital that And I think this is pretty typical. And when we see it in nursing homes, it drives us crazy. But in a hospital, it's a real thing. And that is, discharges and admissions happen constantly, without notice, without warning. And many times they're doing a discharge and an admission into the same bed, into the same room, on the same unit, on the same wing, in the same minute.
Yes. That actually happened a half an hour ago in my facility. Yeah, you must work here. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And so at a hospital, you kind of expect it, right? Or you kind of, it's part and parcel. But when it happens in a nursing home, it just burns my blood. I'm like, come on, we could do better here. We could plan a little better.
And I think that my experience with that helped me here a lot, because I was so programmed with having to get these rooms turned over, having to get them cleaned in a certain amount of time, but we can't cut back on quality. We still must clean and disinfect everything, because we don't want to spread disease. Mm-hmm. So it got me like a robot with this. So when I came in to the nursing home game, I just hit the ground running. I think it was very helpful. Yeah,
I agree. That's super smart. So there was another hospital I was involved with in Pennsylvania, and they're having a big problem with turning over not just rooms. It wasn't just a cleaning issue, but this rapid discharge any time of the day, admission any time of the day, was very disruptive to all their services. You can imagine. I mean, that kind of rudimentary, you come and go whenever you want, that affects every department: X-ray, rehab, the guys who are doing the cast, surgeries, all that stuff. And so they went across the board. I remember when they did it, because when they did it, everyone was like, this is never going to work. And it completely worked.
Yes.
They started doing discharges at 3 p.m. every day, no later, no sooner. If you are going to leave the hospital today being discharged, you are going to leave at 3 p.m.
Wow. But the day shift is leaving at 3 p.m. So that kind of...
Yeah, but it totally worked. And in housekeeping in hospitals, I mean, I don't have to tell you this, but most of our cleaning is done at night in hospitals. Our resident rooms are done during the day.
Yes.
Or our patient rooms. But we staff more housekeepers at night in a hospital than we do during the daytime. So just kind of part and parcel for the way it went. But 3 p.m., no more discharges willy-nilly. Everybody's leaving at the same time, which means all the admissions happened at the same time, made it so much easier for us. Much easier for us to manage.
That's a good system.
Yeah, it was really great. And it drives me a little batty because I've had a lot of conversations with admission coordinators. And, it's funny, you sit down with an admission coordinator and you say, hey, how can we make this admission process easier? Because the last thing the admission coordinator wants in any industry or any nursing home I've ever met, the last thing they want is it to not go well.
Definitely.
The last thing they want is to roll up in a room that hasn't been cleaned. The last thing they want is to roll up in a room that doesn't have a bed in it. I mean, I've been there. We've legit gone into a nursing home, admission, and there's no.
I've been there, Ralph. I've been there with the resident outside on the stretcher while we're trying to clean the room. Oh, I've been there. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Admission clerks do not want this. Admission clerks, social service, this is the opposite of what they're after. And so I've sat down. I remember sitting down with this woman, and she was, every time I sit down with anybody, they're always very apprehensive at first because they're always like, I'm either, going to try to correct them in some way or ask them to do me a favor.
Apprehensive with Ralph?
Yeah, I know. There's some letters out there. People like to anyway. So I'm just talking to her. I said, no, I just want to know how I can help. How can I fix this? How can we make it so that we get the notification of the discharge before it happens? Like, why? When's the last date? That kind of thing. And so she goes, I'm going to show you something after some banter. She shows me the email and she goes, this long email gets sent to every unit manager. The administrator gets a copy. The director of nursing gets a copy. All the unit managers get a copy of this email. And in this email explains, it not only tells you when the resident's coming, estimated, but it also tells you all the medical equipment they need. It tells you the food preferences, the dietary, everything is in this email. I go, so what's the problem? And she says, nobody ever reads the email.
I'm not surprised.
And there it is. And there you can communicate all day long, but if nobody's going to read it,
Yeah.
And so then I had the dumb idea. I said to her, because I'm so smart and smug, I say, what if you put all the important stuff in the subject line? And she just turns, she goes, and how many words can you get in a subject line?
That's a good question. I've never tried to make it happen like that.
Admissions, room changes, they've got to be the one of the biggest challenges facing the operation side of housekeeping. One of the biggest challenges. They
have to keep the beds filled, and as people are leaving, they have to get people to come in. Yeah, so it's a challenge.
It really is. It really is. What is your biggest challenge right now? What are you? Is it staffing just generally, or is it something more than that?
My biggest challenge now is that's actually an excellent question, Ralph. To continue to keep the people motivated because they're doing the same thing in the same rooms every day. So, we have to keep them inspired to continue to do the same thing every day. So, you try to meet with them, you try to huddle with them and talk with them and just always keep them included. What I learned from my training was to always try to involve them in certain decision-making processes to make them feel engaged. So like I'll have my waxer and stripper and tell him, listen, we need to get this room cleaned out and done. How do you think we should go about doing it? And I'll try it his way just to make him feel like he's part of the operation. I will ultimately end up doing it my way, but we want to keep him engaged. We want to, give him input. So, just keeping the staff motivated and on message is something that I'm always focused on as a challenge.
Yeah, I got to tell you that. So I like how you put that because I struggle with that too. And for a long time, I thought my job as a housekeeping manager, and I'm full disclosure, I thought this way longer than I should have. Truthfully. But I thought my job as a housekeeping director, and I've been a housekeeping director for 20 years, I thought my job was to be a problem solver. I thought my job was to solve my housekeepers' problems. I thought that anytime a room change came up, or we couldn't get into this complete room, and so we had to do a different room, or a resident was not wanting us to go in their room. They didn't want, we don't want anyone in there, or something like that. I thought that all of that had to come to me so that I could solve the problem for the housekeeper who, is completely capable of managing their entire life. But for some reason, when they got into my nursing home, I treated them like I needed to be there every step of the way. And you know what? I really did not do it out of like anything against them. More, A, because I thought that was my job, and B, there was probably a lot of ego to that. Like I really kind of thought like I'm the Superman here. I'm the director. Right?
Yeah, I've been there.
I did not know how much easier it is and better it is to manage by suggestion rather than manage by my suggestion. I didn't know that until I was actually working. I was working with a guy, and they were taking over a dietary department. And they were talking about sandwiches not being made properly. And if you didn't oversee this group of people, they would not even make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich properly. And I remember just hearing that, just in conversation, they're talking about how terrible the staff are. If you make any changes to the menu, you're going to have to go there and walk them step by step because they're not going to do it right. And we're talking about how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I just thought to myself, I'm thinking like, when did I learn to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? I mean, I probably wasn't very good at it, but I think my mom,
in the beginning,
7, 8 years old, I started to run with she didn't let me use a butter knife, but I could do it with a spoon,
Yes, yeah.
I'd get in trouble if I got peanut butter in the jelly or if I got jelly in the peanut butter. You didn't want to do that, right? You had to keep them separate.
Right, the spoon, yes.
When you're 7, it's a little difficult, but it didn't take me long to master the art of 2 spoons because then,
Okay.
So I'm thinking about this. I'm like, who could they possibly be hiring? Who could be possibly running the kitchen if this is their problem, right? So I eventually go down in the kitchen and I look, and they're all my mother's age. All these women are 60, 50, and I'm like, they're not capable of making a sandwich. There's a disconnect here, right? There's and it had nothing to do with them. It had to do with the approach that the dietary guys were taking. That's how they saw the dietary department. Like they had to be in charge of everything. The consequences if I'm not here and not in charge, the whole building will fall apart. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich will not be put together properly. When I saw them
micromanage all the time.
Yeah, I was like, I think I'm doing the same thing. I think I'm guilty of the same thing. Gotta work on that. And
so what did you do different, Ralph? What did you do different?
So here's the thing that I did differently. So first I did what you did, which is and forgive me for saying this the way I'm saying it, but I did a little bit of lip service. Mm-hmm. I said, I want you to be part of the decision-making process. And so I'll get their opinion. But, honestly, I already have my mind made up. I already know how we're going to do the job.
Definitely.
So I went from that to going, how do you want to do the job? This is the parameters. This is what I know best. This is what it looks like. This is the time frame we have. Do you guys agree or don't agree? And somebody would say something like, no, that's totally fine. Okay, good. Right. Like instead of, but if somebody did say, that doesn't make sense. We should do this first and then this and then this. I'd be like, let's do it. Does it all get done still?
Yes.
Even if it's not my way. Right. So, and then I don't know, you attended my workshop, right? So I don't know if you remember on my daily, I have a daily work schedule that I put together for my housekeepers. It's a checkoff list. And when I do it, I put the project for today and for tomorrow.
Oh.
And that's my big takeaway. Forever, I only put the job today. So whatever the project today is, that's what I'm going to give you because that's the job I want done. The problem is, of course, there's so many different reasons on why they can't get that job done, right? And so I'd go up and I'd find a housekeeper sitting out inside of a resident room, just hanging out on their phone. This is before cell phones. They didn't have phones. They was hanging out. I'm like, what are you doing? Just standing around. We ain't got time to stand around. And the housekeeper would be like, well, I can't get in there yet. This is my only project today. And they're still working in the resident in there. So I'm just waiting. Now imagine today, I give them what today's project is and what tomorrow's project is. So now they go to the room that they're supposed to do today and it's busy. They solve their own problem. They go, well, I know this room's we're doing tomorrow. I'll just do this one.
I like that.
right? Now, all of a sudden, I just empowered them through simple communication, simple transparency, simply sharing more information. And now they're managing it themselves.
I like that.
If they know what your intent is, what is your intent as the housekeeping director? Your intent is to make sure that you provide a clean and safe environment for your residents. If they know that's the intent, I bet there's not a housekeeper you have that can't fulfill that intent.
Yes, they can.
They may not do it exactly the way you do it. They may not start on your end.
Fast, yeah, but they get it done.
But as long as they know what the intent is, I bet they're still going to get it done, right?
Absolutely.
How long have you been in this nursing home, the one you're in now?
I've been in this nursing home for 3 years. Prior to that, I was in the Bronx for 9 years.
What?
Yes. And I just, and before I got here, I made 2 stops. And I feel like I did a little bit of commercial cleaning just to see like the buildings in Manhattan, 40 Rockefeller, 1211 6th Avenue, just to get a different side of what the cleaning business was. And I feel like that little hiatus shaped me for what I got going on here now. You take different things from different experiences you've had and you apply them when you finally find a landing spot. And I think that was a big, big advantage to my career. Awesome. I recommend that. Like sometimes when you stay at one place too long and you've done so much. I was at the nursing home for 9 years. I had 9 deficiency-free surveys.
Nice.
When the state walked in, I was like a machine, and the challenge left me. So I needed to kind of seek that hunger again, and I found it, and now I'm applying it here, and I think I'm a better man for it.
That is so fantastic. I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's. If I had, there's this guy named Mike Goldman. No, not Mike Goldman. I can't think of his name, but he has this whole platform. He wrote this book called What If. I know his name's Mike something. He wrote this book called What If, and the whole thing is all about like, what if you could do anything? What if you could have anything, right? Like, what would that look like? And the whole idea of the exercise is to just explore what you might be interested in, what that next big thing is. And for me, if I had a what if, and this is again when I first started the Housekeepers Podcast, because it was very challenging to get people like you on my show, because you're a rare bird. Most housekeeping managers don't want to talk to me on camera, right? Like they're like totally gun shy. They're like, I don't know if I want to actually be filmed and talking, No. They thought, what if I could talk to housekeeping managers from all over the world in all kinds of industries? Wouldn't it be amazing to hear from somebody who cleans, Carnival Cruise Lines for a living, to hear from somebody who cleans airplanes for a living, which I know a little bit about, by the way. I did work with JetBlue, doing a little bit of JetBlue cleaning there. I'll tell you briefly about JetBlue because there's a bigger lesson in there for long-term care, I think. JetBlue, when I first got involved with housekeeping for JetBlue, they gave us 7 minutes to clean an airplane between flights. So flight would land, you'd have 7 minutes to run in with a vacuum, rag full of germicide, you're straightening out seat belts, pillows, that whole thing, right? 7 minutes, not a lot of time between flights. And then eventually they stopped that practice. And they instead went to only overnight cleans. So now, I don't know about all airlines, but I know JetBlue only gets their plane cleaned by professional housekeepers at night when the plane's no longer being utilized. So now overnight, there's crews out there right now just cleaning JetBlue airplanes inside and out, that kind of thing. You're able to get more time. It's more of a deep clean, blah, blah. So what is happening now at JetBlue between flights? Who's cleaning the airplane? Do you know?
No, what is cleaning now?
Take one guess. You're going to love the answer.
Oh, it's probably the flight attendants.
You would think it would be the flight attendants. And
don't tell me the captain. It's not the captain.
It's not the captain. It's not the captain. No, it's even better. It's even better. This is so fun. It's even better. When they first proposed the change that they were no longer going to pay for housekeeping between flights, they put the onus of of the care of the cleaning the aircraft on the flight attendants.
Mm-hmm.
So now the flight attendants are going to pick up all the trash after everybody. They're going to wipe down the trays. They're going to straighten out the seat belts and make sure all the pillows are put away, all that. The flight attendants are going to do that. Well, the flight attendants, first of all, lose their mind over it. They want no part of it. The union's involved. I mean, it's a mess.
I'm going to say the union. Once they start talking about the union.
Well, it's just a fact of life in airlines and a lot of long-term care facilities, whatever. So the union so it's a big knockdown, drag out battle. That the flight attendants, if you ask them, their job is not to clean up, pick up stuff off the floor, right? They're not housekeepers, they're flight attendants. They're professional flight attendants, whatever they're called. But they are not happy about it. But push comes to shove, money, whatever, they're put in charge with it. So how long before, it doesn't take long, let me say it this way, it doesn't take them long before they're flying in the air, they're just about to land, and the flight attendant looks around and the airplane's a mess. It's a mess. It's been a 3-4 hour flight. There's stuff on the floor everywhere. There's garbage everywhere. And the flight attendant picks up the phone and goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to land. And before we do, you guys are going to start picking up after yourselves." And now every single airline does it, where the flight attendants will ask, "Please pick up your area." The customer.
And then they'll come through with the bags just for you to throw your,
The customer cleans the airplane between flights.
Wow.
Think about it. Now we have the customer doing it.
It's smart. It's smart when you think about it.
I say we get all those, those little hand claws, you know what I mean, with the little gripper and has a little claw on it. We pass them around to all our residents. Listen,
yes.
Ladies and
gentlemen, I know you used to do some cleaning back when you were out in the community. Let's see what you got.
You know what? There's a lot of people in long-term care that would get a kick out of it. Like, they would enjoy the process. Hey, Mr. Corey, it's your time to clean the hallway. Here's your broom.
I'm sure you've come across some residents that have their own little broom and dustpan, and you in the morning you see them wiping down the sinks. We have them.
1,000,000%. And you know what? One of the first. So when I started working in long-term care, we didn't have a dementia unit. So I was in long-term care for a couple of years. I didn't have any dementia patients at all. We'd heard about them, of course, and we had some behavioral issues, but no dementia. And then I moved to another building, and they had a lockdown dementia unit. And one of the coolest things I ever saw was 2 ladies who would spend all day folding laundry. They would be chit-chatting with each other. You couldn't understand a thing they were saying. But they were talking to each other. They each had a basket of their own laundry, and they folded it. And they folded it. Then the nurses would take them behind the nurses station. They'd unfold it, bring it back. The ladies go, "Oh, there's another load," and they'd just be fold. It's just an occupying.
It's therapeutic, yeah.
Give them something to do. I was like, that is amazing. Then like 2 or 3 days went by, and I was short-staffed in laundry, and I went down. I was like, "Listen, those ladies, can they leave the units?"
You're very resourceful, Ralph. You never let a good opportunity go to waste.
I wish I was lying. I'm not making that up. I really wanted to see if they would come down and do it.
I like it.
I mean, when you're in a couple 100-bed building, those towels and washcloths, they stack up, and if you can get anybody to fold them.
Indeed. Now, is your laundry done on premises or off-site?
So I've only experienced working with laundry off-site a few times. Not often. Most places that I've worked with does it themselves, and for a couple of reasons. One, the cost benefit is right. The only time I've seen where it financially makes sense to outsource laundry is if you have a problem with wastewater. Like, let's talk about Nantucket Island for an example. So I did some work on Nantucket Island. There's a nice nursing home out there called Island Home, the Island Home on Nantucket. But Nantucket, because it's an island, you can't have any wastewater. So all your wastewater gets pumped out of your facility and put onto a ship. And then the ship takes it to the mainland. The mainland pumps it into a truck, and the truck goes, who the heck knows where, and dumps it. So like, it's a weird thing.
Very.
But so in those situations, and like maybe you even have that here in you're in Brooklyn, right?
Brooklyn, yes.
Yeah, you may even have it here in Brooklyn where you may have, a problem. The city may be like, you know what, we're not going to take all the wastewater from washing machines, or it might be something like, so I've seen that kind of an issue where we are restricted on wastewater, but otherwise I've never seen it less expensive, or I've never seen it cost effective to outsource laundry. Just when you do the math. I mean,
yeah, I've never been on the financial side of it, but I always thought it, I'm sure it has its benefits in each way, but I know operational wise, when you wash in-house, it's less loss, because the clothing comes straight from the room, straight down to you, washed and folded, and straight back upstairs. There's no in between. And there's not a company taking care of 7 facilities and things get mixed up. So I
appreciate that. Let me say I'm not anti. I think there are companies out there that do a really great job taking the laundry out, and they're trying to keep track of thousands of pieces of linen and personal clothing. I think for the most part, they do a tremendous job.
Yeah.
I've run 60-bed nursing homes and still lost stuff. So
oh, wow. Okay.
I'm not lying. I've legit, it's personal laundry is one of those things where it's like, everybody has the best intentions with personal laundry. Yeah. And that's kind of where we get wrong, because like if a piece of personal laundry comes down to the laundry and gets washed, and you don't know who it belongs to, our first indicator is to put it on the no name rack.
No name rack. Oh, yes.
Or the donation rack.
Yes.
And they keep it in the laundry room. And for a long time, because that's how I was taught how to do it. And then, you'd have CNAs or LNAs or nurses or family members come shop, because they would be like, what the heck is going on down here? Let me go find my mom's clothes. I just bought her 3 shirts 3 weeks ago, and now they're all gone. So they're going to try to rifle through and find them. And what I realized, let me say this. The first time I realized that it was a wrong process is I had 2 women come down into the service entrance, and they were crying. So these 2 older women come down to the service entrance, and they were crying, and they were just looking for anybody to help them. And I was like, well, I'll help. What is happening? Their mom was upstairs actively dying, actively in palliative care, right? Like end of life care, which is what we work with. Yes. And she didn't have any underwear.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't know where it was, and they had talked to whoever. And what drove me the most crazy about this, I might have even wrote about this in my first book, but what drove me the most crazy about this is that their mom's room was on the 5th floor. And so you can imagine these 2 women having to travel from the 5th floor to the basement before they found me, and I was able to help them. Like, how many people did they stop and talk to along the way? And nobody could help them get underwear for their mom. And so, of course, where I went, right? I went to the no name rack.
No name rack.
The no name bin. And I'm like, are these hers? And they're like, I think maybe. I'm like, well, close enough. Let's just get her in some underpants.
Something, yeah.
And that's when it dawned on me. Nobody in the nursing home who owns the clothing is in the basement, is in the laundry room. And so the clothes that come down that don't have names on them should not be kept in the laundry room. They should not be kept in the basement. And it's much better to find a place up on the units.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, it's much better to make sure that we know what unit it comes from. So if we know it came from green unit, we can bring it back to green unit, whether it has a name on it or not. How much easier is it to find then, right?
I like that.
Getting personal laundry back to your residence has got to be one of the dumbest reasons on why we get a bad rap sometimes.
Yeah. And it is the whole laundry department in general is a challenge. It's different from the housekeeping and cleaning piece, but it is just as challenging as keeping the building clean. It has its demons. Yes, it does.
When I look at, and my friend Adam and I have this debate all the time about what is the most important. If we broke down what you're in charge of, Corey, I would imagine you're in charge of laundry.
Yes.
You're in charge of floor care.
Yes.
And you're in charge of housekeeping.
Yes.
And if I were to ask you which one is, you only have one person show up a day. One person shows up out of the 15 people who are supposed to. What job do you put them in? What's the most important job?
I would have to put them in the housekeeping to get these rooms cleaned. Okay. And the floor care we can get by.
Yeah. So we're going to have a longer conversation. Housekeepers Podcast. We're going to be here all night. No.
You tell me what's the most important. Don't tell me laundry.
I'm just going to give you my opinion. And that is exactly what I would say is laundry. Because laundry, what we do with laundry is we provide the tools for nursing. Without laundry, nursing can't do AM care. They can't do HS care. They can't get people fed. They can't get them clothed. They can't get them showered. So they are 100% reliant on laundry. On the other side of that, if we didn't have that laundry component, then floor care is the number one most important to me in my world. Of course, I work in housekeeping. And when you're talking about housekeeping, and let me preface this because I think you had the same experience. I started housekeeping in condos at a ski resort.
Oh.
So, and I started when I was 16 and it was super fun. You wouldn't think a young 16-year-old would have a good time being a housekeeper at a condo or at these condos at a ski resort. But I'll tell you something, a little secret, just between you and me, because I know nobody else is listening. I was the only guy.
Really?
Anyway, I really was.
You were the only guy, and how many women were there?
There was about a dozen. There was a lot.
Okay.
It was a good place.
Hey, young Ralph.
not only that, but this is back in 86, 87. Okay. And we got to keep anything that anybody left behind. So, and people were out skiing. This is in Vermont, which is where I grew up. People who skied, at least back in the 80s, I don't know what they're like now, but they were the nicest people. They would leave beer in the refrigerator. They'd leave bags of potato chips, cigarettes, vodka. I got the sweetest pair of sweatpants I ever owned because somebody forgot them in a condo. It was really great. Anyway, but even at that early age, I was immediately drawn to the inspection. Like even cleaning condos, hotels, nursing homes, hospitals, there's always this inspection piece to it. And I know that there are some hospitals and in some situations where it's important that you have to your inspection involves some sort of UV lighting where you're, measuring the parts per million microbial, whatever on the tables, that kind of thing. But 99.9% of the time, you and I, my friend, are judged on one thing and one thing only, and that is appearance.
Yes.
And because we are judged on appearance, and most definitely only appearance, what is the biggest, what does everybody see in your nursing home the most of?
Your lobby.
Your floors.
Your floors, yeah.
All
your floors in your lobby. Your floors
probably draw 80% of the attention from people walking into your facility.
Yeah.
I would say maybe another walls don't get a lot of attention unless they're
terrible.
It has to be really terrible to get attention.
Yeah.
So walls don't get a lot of attention. Fans get attention, especially if they're in a hallway and they don't get any attention unless they have a sweater on them, right? They're all full of lint.
Yes, or a beard.
You start thinking this mindset of what exactly draws the attention. What I could fool you on a clean nursing home or a clean hospital or a clean hotel room if the floor was clean and nothing else was. Absolutely. I could not convince you that the hospital is clean if the floors weren't. So I could take care of all the dusting, do all the housekeeping, every toilet in the building completely clean, and the floors look like crap. You would never, ever believe that the building was clean, even if it were. So for my money, the number one job the most important job for me is floor care. The only reason why I put laundry in front of floor care is because we have to deliver, we need to provide laundry as tools for nursing.
Yes, for them to take care of the resident. Yeah, your breakdown definitely makes sense.
Yeah, housekeeping would be last, a distant third. But again, and I know that this is I'm going to say it, and it doesn't matter because nobody's going to take my word for it or going to do anything about it anyway. But nurses should be more like flight attendants when it comes to being short-staffed. You should be able to go and you got somebody down, you're down 2 staff members. That means 2 units are not being, they're going to be very hard to be touched today.
I know where you're going. Oh, yes.
It be nice if you could go to that nurse manager or to your nursing team on that unit and say, hey, listen, best efforts aside, I couldn't get somebody to cover this unit today. Could you do me a favor with peace and love? Don't drop anything on the floor. And if you do, could you just pick it up?
Make sure your gloves hit the garbage instead of the floor. Absolutely.
If you just did that for me. You know what? When people walk onto your unit, they're not going to be screaming about how terrible it is. And I have this thing. I know that sounds crazy. I'm going to give you something even crazier. Wouldn't it be great? I'm just talking about personal laundry. Wouldn't it be great if we stopped having personal laundry socks?
The socks always get lost.
I think they should outlaw socks.
Yes.
Socks should be like towels and washcloths and sheets. They should be provided by the nursing home.
Yes.
Nobody should bring any in.
Yes.
Nobody's going to sit down and label socks. Nobody's going to sit down trying to put socks together. It is the biggest waste of time.
Yeah.
Socks.
Definitely time intensive. Yes.
And definitely. You know what? You can do, with socks, I'd be willing to go like, listen, I'll buy pink ones, blue ones, yellow ones, brown ones, white ones, black ones, and you just tell me what color you want. You want one of each, honey? I'll give you one of each.
How about the entire floor keeps one color?
Don't care.
We do it like that.
Don't care.
Yeah.
If you want white, I'll get you white. You want blue, I'll get you blue. They're going to be 2 blue. They're going to be the same blue. I practice what I'm preaching here. I'm not going to show you my foot, but I only have one kind of sock that I wear when I'm not in a suit, and I have one kind of sock when I do wear in a suit. I don't have brown socks and black socks and white socks. No. I have white socks for my running shoes, and I have black socks for my business suits, and they're all the same. I can get a matching pair of socks in my drawer with the lights off. I don't even look.
Oh, like that. That reminds me of something that you said in the training course. Really stuck with me, and it was something along the lines of what my uncle taught me when I first got into this business about how your appearance as a housekeeping manager. My uncle always told me, if you're going to be the boss, look like the boss. And you said something very similar, that if a resident's family member could come in and not be able to tell the janitor from the manager, you have a problem.
You have a problem.
You have to look like you're in charge. They have to know who's in charge. Man, that stuck with me.
Yeah,
because it's true. It's true.
Yeah. And again, this little tip of mine, and I appreciate that you got it, but this little tip of mine, I simply got wrong a lot. That's all that happened. I had a housekeeper. I took over an account where I was consulting, and that's what I do. I'm a housekeeping manager consultant, operation consultant. And I went in, and all the housekeepers were wearing nursing scrubs. And so I just brought it up. I was like, matter of fact, I did write about this in my first book because I got punched in the throat by a 90-pound housekeeper. And she cut my throat because she had, here, I even have one here with me. Do I have one here? I have an example. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Look at this. This is a scraper for those who are listening and not looking. This is a scraper. And when I first took over the nursing home, one of the big problems was nothing was being locked. None of the housekeeping carts were being locked. None of the housekeeping closets were being locked. And so I went to maintenance, and I was like, hey, I got to make these keys up because we don't have any keys for all these. And the maintenance guy's like, I'm not making more keys. I made more keys, and they always lose them, blah, blah, blah. I said, listen, I got the grade. I'm going to solve your problem. All right. You make me a set of keys. I guarantee they're not going to lose them. They're not going to take them home. He's like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to attach them to a scraper. See, this scraper is a perfect tool for a housekeeper because you can scrape corners and edges. If green beans happen to get mashed into the floor, this will work. If somebody gets gum on the floor, a scraper is a really great tool.
Station block on the end of the key.
Yes,
that's the approach you took.
And the best part is it's so big and bulky that you're not going to forget it's in your pocket and go home with it, right? Nobody wants to take this home with them. Yeah. And so we're having this big knockdown, drag out fight over uniforms because I go into this account and all the housekeepers are wearing nursing scrubs, which isn't so bad, except I saw one of the housekeepers in a resident room, a family member goes up and says to the housekeeper, how is my dad? So now the housekeeper should have known better and said, oh, I'm not a nurse. The nurse's station's right around the corner. But instead, my housekeeper, because she looks like a nurse and she feels better to be a nurse, decided to answer her. Oh, your dad? No, he's good. I think he fell the other day. No, it wasn't him. I'm like, no, you don't answer. So I was like, we have to make sure that housekeepers look like housekeepers.
Yes.
Nurses look like nurses. Managers look like managers. And so I implemented this whole thing. And one of the housekeepers got very mad at me. And long story short, she told me I could keep this job. And when she did, she tried to throw the keys at me. And I ducked. And so she caught me in the neck with the edge of the scraper. Oh,
whoa.
And it cut
Were you working on Rikers Island at the time?
Yeah. I tell that story. I was telling a story to this guy, and he goes, and you stayed in housekeeping? I go, listen, if you're not in for the glory, you
got to be in it to win it, Ralph. There might be a couple little cuts and bruises, a couple little black eyes, but we're all the way in. I love it.
I've seen some really bad fights, between staff and people, are even just accidents and stuff. So if you don't work in healthcare, if you're a little afraid of blood,
no, it's not for the faint of heart.
It is not for the faint of heart, indeed. So what's next for you? So you've been there for 3 years now. Yes. You took a little stint cleaning office buildings.
Yes.
And so what is your next move? Do you have any idea? Are you content where you are? What's going on?
You know what? Right now, I feel like I have a big challenge here. So I want to stay and complete the mission. We had housekeeping here before wasn't the greatest, but we're building up the confidence of the people. We work good with nursing. The relationship, when I first got here, the relationships weren't good. It was almost like a wife who was being beat up by her husband for years, and now she has a good guy, and then a good guy comes, and when he tries to go and hug her, she's ducking because she thinks she's gonna get hit. So it took me some time to, build the relationships and get the confidence of the team back. And now that I got that, man, we're here and I'm just rocking and rolling. It feels good.
I had no idea where you were going with this analogy.
That's all I had. That's the first thing that came to my mind. That's all I had. It's all I had. Right off the top.
So what you're saying is you're feeling pretty good about it.
Feeling pretty good. It's just to see where we've come, man, how far we've come. I mean, it feels good. I got a good team. Of course, you got a couple that you got to shape up a little bit, but overall, we got a real good team, real good, strong team. I have a great new administrator, and I really want to get a couple of good state surveys, and we all here want to make her proud.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that a lot.
That's the mission.
That's really great. That's really, that says a lot about your administrator, that you're like, you know what, I'm going to do whatever I can to impress her and to make her happy, and whatever. Do you know how she did that? How has she had that impact on you? And the only reason I ask is because whatever it is that she's done, let's bottle that up so we can drink some of that to get our staff to go. You know what?
I'm actually observing her. I'm observing her style and taking notes. It's the approach. You know, she has a unifying kind of approach to management, as opposed to I'm up here, you guys are down here, listen to everything I say. You know, it's inclusive. We're not left in the dark about much. We're involved in the process. We're constantly being told what the goal is, what the mission is, and we're being spoken to and treated with fairness.
Love that.
So we want
her.
Oh yes,
good for
That's
you.
What we want. That's what we need, and we're gonna ride it out. We're gonna make it look great.
I gotta tell you, fairness is, I mean, that's the glue. That's the glue of all teams.
Yeah.
Because if you're asking all of us to step up and do 10 million more things than we ever were supposed to do, no problem. Let's all get in. We're all going to do it.
Yes.
But if you only ask me to do it and nobody else is having to be, right, then it's not fair. And fair, that's what it's all about. Fairness.
Fairness is a universal language. It can be understood any language you speak. How do you treat me? How do you make me feel? If I'm being treated fairly, my work and my production for you will increase.
You probably remember I'm a big fan of stuffed animals.
Yes, I remember that.
Here, I have. Let me grab my. Here we go. Here's my George, my monkey George, and you just reminded me of this. Really, it's a great story or a great study, but it's also a terrible one, and it's about monkey behavior and fairness. If you have monkeys and they're in cages beside each other, and if one monkey presses a lever, you teach a monkey to press a lever and they get a treat. And then you teach the other monkey to press a lever and you get a treat. But then you switch the treats up. So let's say the one monkey gets a sugar cube, which let's say that they love, and the other monkey gets a head of radish, or like a radish, which they don't love. They will, the one who's not getting the sugar cube will damn near kill himself trying to get out of that cage to kill you for being unfair.
Mm-hmm.
If you gave them both radishes, which they don't love, they would be fine.
Yeah,
but if you
because they're both getting the same.
A sugar cube, animals, you can learn a lot.
You can learn a lot from them. Absolutely,
learn a lot from animal behavior. Because we're no different, right?
No, not too much. Yeah, fairness.
Man, what a great way to end today's show is just highlighting how important it is when you're creating job routines, when you're communicating, when you're disseminating extra work, when you're asking people to step up. Fairness, fairness, fairness.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you coming on, and
I appreciate the invite, and hopefully this won't be the last time because I'm here for you, Ralph.
It certainly will. I'd love to have you on again. It's my favorite subject. I just love it. I love talking about management. I love talking about operations. I love talking about housekeeping.
Same here.
My wife gets annoyed. She wants to talk about something else.
yes. I'm in the same boat with you there. Yes, indeed. Yes.
Well, I didn't really give much thought to how I was supposed to be ending the show or even starting the show because it's been so long since I've been doing it. But I just want to say that I really appreciate your time, and it's the biggest gift that you can give anybody is your time. And so I really appreciate it. And hopefully somebody is going to go, wait a minute. That's interesting. Whatever it is, there must have been something we said that was interesting.
Oh yeah, plenty of things. Yeah, definitely. And you're going to take off like a rocket ship. See, I see it there. I see it taking off, Ralph. Yes, indeed.
It's funny. You attended my workshop a couple months ago.
Yes.
I have a company called the Standard Health and Rehab, and we train housekeeping managers. And so I'm constantly, meeting new people and trying to get people to attend my workshop and stuff. And one of the biggest things that I hear is how much people are just like, what do you mean housekeeping management training? That's a thing? Like it's such a rare thing that I'm so happy to be in the position to be offering housekeeping management training because it is so, I don't think there's much more important position in nursing homes. I think housekeeping is just as equally important, is equally as challenging, and equally as work heavy as the CNA work.
Yes,
I think
we are the
getting paid
backbone.
same.
We're the backbone.
We are the backbone. I think we should be getting paid the same. I think we should be getting treated the same. I think that I think CNAs are very valuable, by the way. I'm not saying they're not.
Absolutely.
I think what they do is incredible. I think that they are hardworking and they don't get a lot of credit themselves. They too are in that hierarchy of not getting the respect that they deserve. All I'm saying is housekeeping, laundry, dietary workers, we are just as valuable. We are just as valuable, should be paid as much, should be respected as much, should be treated the same, communicated with the same.
Oh,
Ralph Peterson for president. No.
Ralph, that is scripture. That is in the New Testament, in the book of Ralph. Yes.
Write that down.
Write that
A raise
down.
for everybody.
Thanks again, Ralph. I appreciate this ride. It was a lot of fun, man.
All right, brother. Be well. I'll talk to you soon.
All righty.
Mr. Corey Johnson. See you later, brother.
Over and out.
Bye.